The situation I find myself in now is something I never imagined 3 years ago. Back then, I entered what I believed was a strong and stable relationship with my girlfriend, Emily. However, my world turned upside down when I discovered, in an undeniably clear and painful way, that Emily had been seeing another man. The proof of her affair came in the form of photos, messages, and videos that left no room for doubt. It was shocking to realize not only that Emily had been involved with someone else, but also to question whether the other man, Jake, even knew I existed. Despite the devastating discovery, I didn't feel anger. I felt numb. A week has passed since I uncovered the truth, and Emily hasn't suspected a thing. She continues to treat me as if I'm still her committed boyfriend, which is the most confusing part. We have no financial or material ties that would explain why she's still with me. She doesn't owe me anything, and I don't offer her anything substantial other than the role of a boyfriend. Yet she persists in maintaining the illusion that I'm the only one in her life. It feels as though she's using me for something I can't understand. I feel nothing but disappointment now, not rage. I constantly wonder what Emily gains from this double life. Why hasn't she ended things with me if she already has Jake? Every day, she continues to act as if nothing has changed, pretending that everything is fine while I silently prepare to break free from this tangled mess. After discovering the truth, I started observing her more closely. I began to notice subtle but telling signs about Emily. She still laughed at my jokes, smiled at me, and maintained the facade that everything was perfect. She was playing her role so well, almost too well. It became clear that Emily had mastered the art of compartmentalizing her life, effortlessly juggling two relationships. She managed to lie to me without batting an eye, likely using the same tactics with Jake. This behavior made me question whether she had always been this way, or if it was something that developed over time. One particularly troubling moment occurred when I joined Emily for dinner at her family's home. Her parents treated me as though I were the center of her life. They asked about our future plans, and Emily responded enthusiastically, nodding as if she were fully invested in our shared future. It was a terrible moment for me, knowing that her family was likely aware of Jake and actively protecting the lie Emily had created. I tried to stay composed, but I could feel the anger building inside me. I knew I had to remain calm until I could fully disentangle myself from this situation. But every smile from Emily's family and every casual touch felt like part of a scripted performance where I was the only one without a role. I began distancing myself from Emily. I started spending more time alone, making plans without her, and pulling back from the small acts of affection that once defined our relationship. Emily noticed the change. She would ask if everything was okay, tilting her head with concern in her eyes. The same eyes that once made me feel seen now only showed me a stranger. Still, she didn't seem to mind the distance. It became clear to me that leaving wouldn't be as difficult as I had originally thought. She hardly seemed to miss me at all. As the days went on, Emily continued to act as though nothing had changed between us. Her lies became suffocating, and I began to wonder just how far she would go to maintain the false reality she had created. One evening, I decided to subtly confront her. We were sitting at the kitchen table, finishing dinner, when I casually asked, "Do you think we're good together long term?" Her response came quickly and confidently. "Of course we are. Why wouldn't we be?" The way she said it was so assured that it weighed heavily on me. I pressed further, asking, "Would you ever do anything to hurt me?" For a brief moment, her smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. She placed her hand over mine and assured me, "I would never hurt you." Part of me wanted to confront her directly, to show her the videos and messages I had uncovered and force her to explain herself. But I knew that would lead to gaslighting, denial, and a fight that would only leave me feeling worse. Instead, I chose to remain calm. I nodded, squeezed her hand, and pretended I still believed her. I had a plan: wait it out, sort out our financial matters, and then leave for good. That night, as I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, I felt trapped in a suffocating lie. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I glanced at it. It was a social media notification from a mutual acquaintance. When I opened it, I saw a photo of Emily and Jake together. They were at a party I hadn't attended, and in the picture, Emily had her arms wrapped around Jake. The caption read, "Asterisk great night with amazing friends." My heart raced as I processed the image. This wasn't just a betrayal anymore. It was about how far Emily would go to maintain her lies. I saved the photo and locked my phone, feeling the weight of it all pressing down on me. The next morning, Emily left for work, as usual, kissing me on the cheek in her typical routine. I stayed behind, staring at the spot where she had stood, wondering how many more days I could keep up the charade. I had nearly finished untangling our finances and was ready to make my exit, but I needed one last confirmation that I wasn't imagining the extent of her deceit. That evening, I decided to ask Emily about the party where the photo with Jake had been taken. I brought up casually, trying to keep my tone light. "Hey, how was that party you went to last month? The one Sarah hosted?" Emily looked at me, surprised by the question. I waited, my mind racing, wondering if this would be the moment the truth surfaced. She dismissed it quickly, giving a simple smile and shrugging before turning back to the TV. She didn't say much more. Her lack of specifics and her avoidance of my gaze told me everything I needed to know. At that moment, I realized lying came easy to her. There was no remorse, no hesitation in her actions. She was indifferent to the hurt she had caused. My patience with her was running thin. I could feel the urge to confront her, to express my anger and disappointment, but I knew better. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me lose control or give her the chance to manipulate the situation. I wanted to leave, but on my terms, without causing a scene. Later that week, I made sure to double-check that all of my valuables were packed and safely stored at a friend's house. I had explained everything to him, and while he couldn't do much beyond offering his support, his simple words of encouragement helped solidify my decision. He clapped me on the back and said, "You're doing the right thing." Those words made me feel certain about my plan. The time had come. The final night arrived sooner than I expected. Emily mentioned she was going out with friends, but I knew better by now. It was just another deliberate lie. I waited for her to send a message saying she'd be home late. When she didn't, I used the time to ensure everything was in order. My name was off the lease, our shared bank account was closed, and all of my belongings were out of the apartment. There were no longer any ties between us. The bond was severed. The only thing left was goodbye, but she would never know it directly. That night, when Emily returned well past midnight, I pretended to be asleep. I heard her moving quietly around the room, changing and then sliding into bed next to me. I lay there, unable to shake the feelings that flooded me. Perhaps it was regret, perhaps nostalgia, but it passed quickly. I reminded myself of the reality, the betrayal, the lies, and the months of deceit. I had learned to accept what she had done and knew I needed to move forward. As usual, I woke up before her the next morning. I got dressed, took the note I had written, and placed it on the kitchen counter. It was brief, just a few sentences explaining that I knew everything and was done. I told her there was no need to contact me again. I didn't list all the ways she had wronged me. She didn't deserve that effort from me. As I walked out, I felt a strange sense of relief. The weight I had carried for weeks was lifted. It wasn't an overwhelming joy, but rather a quiet emptiness, a sign that I had put the past behind me. In the days that followed, I felt disoriented, as if I were observing my own life from a distance. I had expected overwhelming emotions, regret, guilt, or anger, but none came. There was only relief. Staying with a friend, I adjusted to a new routine. It felt freeing, as though I could finally breathe without the weight of pretending. For the first time in a long while, I felt free to be myself. Emily texted and called, as I knew she would. Every call went unanswered, and every message was ignored. Eventually, she stopped trying to contact me. I imagined her piecing everything together, realizing that I had known the truth all along, and left without giving her the satisfaction of confrontation. There would be no gaslighting, no turning herself into the victim. My silence was louder than any argument could ever be. One afternoon, while browsing social media, I came across a post from one of Emily's friends. It showed her at another party, smiling and carefree, as if nothing had ever happened. For a moment, I felt a twinge of resentment, but I quickly let it pass. She was now someone else's problem. I had spent too long entangled in her lies and manipulations, and it was time to focus on myself. As weeks turned into months, life started to feel normal again. I began running in the mornings, reconnecting with old friends, and rediscovering hobbies I had abandoned. Each step I took symbolized moving away from the past and toward a better future. I could feel the changes within myself. One evening, I received a call from a friend. He sounded hesitant. "Hey, just wanted to check in," he said. I ran into Emily. She seemed different. She said you left. I could tell he wanted to know more, but I didn't feel the need to explain. "Yeah, I'm good," I replied simply. There was no need for further conversation. I didn't need closure, and I certainly didn't need to revisit the details of our relationship. Silence had been enough. Months later, I heard that Emily's relationship with Jake had ended. To my surprise, I didn't feel much of anything. That chapter of my life was closed, and I had no desire to reopen it. Any lingering feelings of confusion or resentment had faded. All that remained were the lessons I had learned and the realization that I was stronger than I had believed. I had let go when the time was right, even when it hurt. Now, as I sit in a cafe with new friends, sipping coffee and laughing, I feel lighter. Life seems simpler, fuller of opportunities. If anyone reading this has found themselves in a similar situation, I want them to know they have the power to walk away from toxicity. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to let go and walk away. And sometimes, silence is the loudest message you can send.